consuming. And oh, Jay's in too. Thanks, Jay. What I was going to say is I didn't know how to really maximize what I was doing, and so I started reading a little bit about social media dashboards, which is really a software web tool that helps you sort of move your content across different platforms. It kicks back analytics at you. It sort of automates sending pieces and parts of your content out across other platforms. Okay, so I got into that and I started thinking more about it, and I thought, well, how can I do this? So this is a work in progress, but it's a really interesting time for me because for the first time ever, and I've been meaning to do it forever, I'm teaching COM 3200 this semester, which is internet communication. So what we're seeing today in this little webinar is really what I'm trying to do for my class. I might be a little crazy on this, but in the class, I'm taking them all the way across all the social media platforms. And in the end, the big final project deliverable is every student will publish their own Kindle book. So we're trying to get them to a real big end deliverable. Wouldn't it be great if a couple students ended up really selling a lot of books and becoming Kindle bestsellers? Okay, it was sort of a dream of mine. So I love this type of thing. I always dream entrepreneurially about social media and sort of the dashboard. So let me go in here real quick and I'll show you some of my thoughts. I'm going to grab up my main screen here. You should be seeing that. Hopefully you're now seeing me in the main screen, right? So look at this. I went in and just Googled social media dashboard, right? And here's what I learned. And if you go down, there's a bunch of them you can see. Hootsuite. I used it, okay? And I used the free version, but I learned quickly. Nothing's free, right? It was dropping embedded links into things I was posting. I think it was hacking a few things. It was sort of manipulating my content and rebranding it with theirs, okay? Didn't like it. I didn't feel good about that. So I started thinking, well, I sort of know what these social media dashboards do. Why don't I write about it and build my own? Which is interesting is, here's the Google search for that. And if you go down about 10 spots, here's me. Here's me picking up under the Google search talking about social media dashboards. Interesting, this came off one of my Google Plus sites. Okay, and I'll talk about that too. So what I want to show you is, the big thing is, in all social media, what I believe is true, write short and write a lot. That's the key, is you have to have a lot of content coming at people often, okay? Sometimes I see people with blog post writing, they want to perfect something so far, they take days and days to write this really long piece that I don't think many people follow anyway, but write short, write a lot, okay? So I want to walk you through just a few of the things I do, and this is just my experimentation. Here's my website. I built this on Wix. If you notice, I grabbed up my own domain name. It's profwriter.com. I suggest if you can get a good domain name, grab it. For example, many years ago, at sort of the start of the internet, I owned sportmanager.com. I sold that for $5,000 several years ago. So, there is value in your domain name. So this is ProfWriter. This is my site. And right now, my blog, which is really what I want to get to quickly, that's where I believe you should put, really, the blog is the repository for what you build. It's the place you park your things, okay? Right in this case, I built this a while back. The blog I have in here, there was a widget that feeds through one of my blogs, and you can see it cut off a picture here. It's not real clean, and if I could go back and start over, I am too diffused. I've got a bunch of blogs. I got too many things out there. It's too diffused. If I could start over, I would minimize down and try to make sure I have one deliberate path across all my social media. I know now that Wix now has an actual blog, a tool you can put in. If I could start over, I'd have a website with an integrated blog. I wouldn't have an external blog, okay? But I've built this over time, and honestly, I made a little bit of a mess out of it because I got too much. Anyway, that's my website. Call it a portal. I've got different pieces and parts at it, profwriter.com. I'd suggest we all probably need our own website to build an identity, but blogs are the faster way to get there, okay? This is my master competitor blog. I've had this one several years. If I push really hard, I can get 1,000 readers a week on this one, okay? So I hope that, I mean, it's good. I don't know what 1,000 is. That's not a big number, but I don't work at it consistently. Okay, so I built this with the Blogger tool. That's what Google provides. Okay, so I've got Master Competitor. Then I've got Prof Writer. This is another blog, more of my academic blog. And by the way, Prof Writer, that name was taken in the blogger world, so I had to call this one tsmueller.blogspot.com. If you note back here, I own Master Competitor in this blog world, okay, which mattered over time because I sort of built the Master Competitor brand. I'm an endurance athlete. I've been one for a long time, so I sort of created that persona and I built it over time, okay. And then Prof Writer is my other sort of academic site, and then this one, Retro Motocross, is yet another blog because initially out of college many years ago, I was a writer photographer for Cycle News, a motorcycle magazine, and I have over 12,000 black and white images. So in this blog, and this one turned out to be pretty popular, I just post a lot of pictures and write about them, pictures I've taken over time. So my point is, you can think to yourself, for you or your organization, what is the brand you're building? What is it you want to tell people about, and what attracts them to read it? Okay. In a lot of cases, what I've learned is it's less about me and more about what I write about other people. Okay. So again, I've got 3 blogs going. I've got my website. I've got these 3 different blogs. All of them have all this different content. What do you do with it? Okay. Here's my idea. I would suggest always start with your blog. Probably one primary blog, not so many like me, okay? And then on that blog, I would write an article, okay? What is it for this day, or however often you want to do it. I just made a video the other day. I was messing around and I made this most efficient weight loss technique video, which supports the sales of my book, Mind Over Diet, published on Amazon, right? So I did this, and then of course I took this all back into a blog post. So I wrote about it in Master Competitor. I wrote a little bit about the tactics of weight loss, put this together, okay? And then from there I think, well, I want to move that across other platforms, okay? Twitter is a great platform to move it across. I would suggest you drive people back to the blog. Make something really exciting on Twitter, a hook, and then drive them back to the blog so you get your traffic back into your blog, okay? There's other ways to do that, but again, that would be my first extension. Here's a little bit of a Twitter trick I hope I can tell you about. If you look at some of my notifications, if you write about anybody that is sort of famous or semi-famous, I think it's interesting to include that person's Twitter handle in what you write, okay? Here's an example. Eddie Trunk, he's a real sort of a retro rock guy. He's pretty famous. He's had shows on VH1. I like to listen to his podcasts. I'll talk about podcasts in a second. I like to use Eddie Trunk's name. Here I also use Gene Simmons from Kiss. I use his handle, and then he had a comedian on, Craig Gass. Here's the point. When Eddie Trunk retweets me, Eddie Trunk has 239,000 followers. Okay, so by using somebody else's Twitter handle and leveraging them into my tweet, he moves my tweet out. I get in front of 239,000 people. Okay, some aren't as big as others. Dee Snider, okay, another guy. He retweets me. He's got a podcast. You might remember him. He was the front man for Twisted Sister. Okay, he retweets me quite a bit. He has 137,000 followers. So what I would suggest for any of us, if we're writing academically, we're writing topically, who are the big players in what we're writing about? And then include their information or write about them or write to them about things maybe they've written or done and leverage that back in. Okay? So this is how I would suggest you always think about starting, even when you build your initial content in your blog, is how can you leverage in other important people. Now, some of it for me too isn't just fun and games. For instance, we took students on a field trip to Lowe's Home Improvement down by Lake Norman, and I tweeted using some of the handles of the BBDO agency people that were involved, and I got retweeted and followed by, I think, the BBDO world director in New York. Okay? So those are some of the kinds of things I think if you could leverage people and leverage them into your writing experiences, you can get in front of a lot more people. Okay? Another thing that I would think about, other than tweeting and leveraging back, are these Google Plus sites. Google Plus sites are tied to the blogger blogs, and you can even set a function where every time you write a blog post, it prompts you to go ahead and post out onto Google Plus. Now, again, every Gmail address will have a Google Plus site. I've got too many, but this is what I find interesting. Here's one of my sites. This is, again, a push in my book here, right? This is tied to one of my email addresses. I get 120,000 views on this Google Plus site. Here's the other one. Look at this one. This is tied to an old Yahoo address that's tied to my YouTube channel, okay? 629,000 views on this. So every time I write that blog post, move it out to your Google Plus channel, okay? And from there, also think about another big thing is, think about who the groups are inside of these Google Plus sites. There's big groups. Groups are a big play, okay? And I'm going to talk more about that in a second, okay? What I would suggest here is write topically, like again, some Google Plus sites, again, a lot of this stuff I have here might be a little bit based on my athletics, but others is based on, like, here's a video I did on social media. I have this out on YouTube. There's other things I post in here, but there's big traffic here, so I can't ignore that, right? Here's what I'd suggest too. Another thing is, if you want to start producing any of your YouTube videos or tie YouTube, as I did, back to my blog post, here's my YouTube channel, and most of these things I did don't have many views. Here's 500, here's 180, but here's my big play down here. I did this most efficient running technique video. It sort of took off. I've got 416,000 views on this. Just writing about, doing a short video on how to run well, okay? A lot of comments, a lot of threads. I have over 700 followers inside of my YouTube site. This seems to be the one place I'm picking up more and more and more followers. So every time I post a video, then I get, people get an update when I post. Someone just wrote, how do I keep them all active? I don't. That's my problem. I don't put enough time into it because I have too many things out there. That's why I'd recommend, I sort of got myself into a quagmire. I would suggest one blog, one brand website, and then move across the channels. But that's, to come out of one decisive place would be a lot better than what I did. I think my problem is I did a lot of this through experimenting, and then over time I had too much out there and I can't manage it all. So strategy in the beginning is really important, because I think you want to have one strong voice that keeps going out, okay? And then, of course, Facebook, we can all post into here, but I'm not too excited about Facebook because Facebook to me is to our friends. There's not a lot of reach in that, It's not bad. I usually will, of course, same thing. If I have a new blog post, I'll bring it in here and put the link out, okay? And it would be a good place to have a little added value, but I don't put a whole lot into Facebook because it's sort of like a friend thing, right? So you're coming across all this, and then, of course, the one I really want to talk about is LinkedIn, okay? I don't sleep much because I'm on this stuff all the time, because I'm trying to be famous, because someday I want to write a bestseller, right? But this is also, I hope you can tell, I get excited because I want students to see this. I think we have to teach students to be entrepreneurial. At least in my agency world, the advertising world, there's less and less big corporate opportunities. There's probably less agency opportunities, more subcontractor life going on, right? So I think, how can I tell my students these are the steps you can take to get really in the game, okay? So here's it, the good old LinkedIn, really good. By the way, Maya Pope Chappelle right here, I'm connecting with her. I'm talking with her right now because I want to do more with students. She is the world director for student content on LinkedIn, and I'm working with her right now to think about how I can drive content from my new internet communication course into her content space at LinkedIn. Okay, I'm working on that. So here's the big play. We get up in here, and of course with profile in our LinkedIn world, I change this all the time. It's like a big puzzle. What do we add in it? What do we put in it? I don't know. There's probably no perfect world, but you can sure take the steps to build. I've got a student picture here in the background. I'm adding things in, and then here's the deal. When we go back into our LinkedIn world, remember we did the blog post? Here's what I would do for LinkedIn. Take that blog content, images, whatever you built, and then look here. When you're in your LinkedIn, publish a post. Okay. I would then open that up, and I would go back in and replicate my blog post. This is the one place I don't just type in a link and say, go see my blog. I take time and build out a blog post. So whatever I did on my blog, I then add it here into LinkedIn. Okay. And I can go back to my profile and show you over time. Let's see here. Here's my posts, and I've done about 30 of these. Okay, so here's one I did a while back. I wrote a piece on Danica Patrick at Nature's Bakery. I just did a piece about how the sponsorship, in my mind, the numbers don't work. Okay, but again, this was on my blog, and then I just copy and paste that in. Okay. Someone just mentioned on my research agenda. I don't know. Let me think about that a little bit. I've done a lot of sport and sport media type research, but I haven't really done a lot on how to build or sort of really test the response mechanism. I am getting into more analytics now. That's my next big thing. I'm trying to get a lot into analytics so I can more understand how to build predictor models on how to make this stuff work. I guess that'll be my next plan. So back up here again, I replicate my blog posts up into the LinkedIn. Okay, and so I have a new post within LinkedIn, right? And then here is where the big play comes again. Go up to interests up in here in LinkedIn and look at groups. This is where you really can get in front of a lot of people. It's really sort of like specific targeted, because I'm in some groups here, and here's why. You can find these groups. You can just search for groups, search for all kinds of interests, all kinds of things that you can do, okay? But look at this. Here I belong to the advertising professional group, right? Let's click on that real quick and take a look. Here's my point. 180,000 members are in there, okay? It's a big group of people. So I can go back there. Let's see. Here's public relations and communication group. For any of you, whatever academics you're into, your department, whatever you study, you can find groups for it, okay? Here's the public relations group, 231,000 members, okay? This is gold. This is social media gold. We've got to get our stuff in front of all these people. So what I do is after, let's see if I can go back into a profile here. When I'm working in a profile then and I have something to share, I can go into interests and groups, and there will be a group tab when you do, like I reformatted and made a blog post, you can find a place to share it. And when you click on the share, then you'll be able to go and click into what groups you belong to. So if I write something on Danica Patrick, I'm going to share it with the advertising professionals. I also belong to a NASCAR user group, and I'm going to share it in there. But now I've repurposed my social media from my blog to LinkedIn to different specific user groups. And I've really put myself in front of a lot of people. That's what I want to start teaching my students. If we can get them into these specialty student publishing areas in LinkedIn, they can start getting their voice and showcasing their writing. We're actually trying to structure all our weekly forums topically so they can repost that into their LinkedIn, into their user groups. Okay? So again, we've got all that going on. We've got LinkedIn. One thing I'll tell you though, as I move across these social media platforms, once I get the hang of it, it goes pretty fast. Like if I write a blog post, maybe 500 words with an image, I can move it across Twitter. I can click in quickly and save it into both my Google Plus pages. Then I go over into LinkedIn, repurpose that as a blog, feed that into some extra user groups, man, I'm maybe 15 minutes. Once it's written, maybe 15 minutes to have my own no cost social media dashboard, right? I just make it up as I go across. So that's how I feed it across and leverage every piece. So again, if I could put more time against it, I have a day job, so it's hard to do much more. I would probably do, a post or two or three a day and keep moving it across those platforms. Okay. I don't do anything with photo sites. I'm not Instagram. I don't do it. I could, I should. I don't. That's a whole nother place. And I even think my retro motocross blog, I should probably dormant that out and start building my identity in Instagram with all those images. But I haven't done it yet. Um, Emery, you just posted something. I didn't catch that one. I'll get back to it, okay? But I haven't done that. And so there's a whole image piece out there yet that I haven't done. And then one last thing. I'm sorry I'm old-fashioned. I still use a Zune because I like how it syncs. I am into podcasts. There's no better time to talk about how you might. Someday I'd like to start moving toward podcasts if it's not already too late. It's real timely. Howard Stern just said in recent news reports, podcasts are for losers. Now, Howard Stern built a radio empire. He just concluded a 5-year run with Sirius. He was getting $80 million a year. The reports are that he has now renewed at $90 million a year. So Howard Stern might say podcasts are for losers, okay? But there's a lot. If you're building something from nothing, I think podcasts could have a whole nother piece in this social media movement. And I'd like to get there, but the thing is they really do take a lot of work. And you would have to do a lot of them and do them regularly. And I have not yet made that commitment. Okay. But I listen to all these podcasts. For instance, here's Vinny Tortorich. I don't agree with this guy all the time. He's a fitness trainer. He's abrasive. Like again, I'm not commending him on a lot of his content, but I do listen. He built from nothing to like 500,000 listeners an episode. Think of that. Think a magazine that had 100, 200,000 readers used to be considered really, really successful. So he built a podcast out of nothing. Now he's got a best-selling, they're plowing outside, sorry. Now he's got a best-selling book and he's got his own vitamin company. Okay, he built it through that podcast. Tim Ferriss, the 4-Hour Workweek guy, big podcast. James Altucher, big entrepreneurial guy. Runners, bicycling guys. Mark Maron, who had Obama on, right? This is the podcast world. So that's a whole nother frontier out there that I would still like to someday get involved with. Okay, so I'm coming out of it. That's my social media dashboard, is just moving and repurposing as much as I can, trying to keep everything going. And really, if I'm going to put the time into creating some sort of social media, we might as well leverage as much as we can every time, right? And I would think if for a class assignment, have a class process through this. If you're building for a committee, some university project, nonprofits. Matter of fact, I just was asked to speak at a nonprofit event, to present on this whole philosophy for nonprofits at a convention here this summer. So it's not perfect, and I can still do a lot more work, but I stay excited about it. I think about it all the time. So that's sort of a summary of it all. Are there any other questions or comments about the whole process in general? I think I see what Emery wrote now, the whole as you learn discussions. Everything we do in life, everything can be funneled into a blog. Our experiences, what happened in a meeting, everything can have a blog identity. And once you have the blog identity and create that, that sort of that, receptacle for that content, you can be moving it out across social media. It can work for anything, really. tell you what, I've got 23 webcast viewers in here, which is great. I can't believe there was that much interest. If you are okay with what we've done and you've had enough, or you don't have any more questions, could you just type in no more questions? I'm just trying to see who's left out there, or what else we might cover on the day. Maybe in the future we could have another one of these, maybe over some other platform than Panopto, and talk a little bit more about what else everybody has in mind. What else could we do? I think this is something we could all work on. I'm trying to come up with some new good ideas. Played with a podcast idea for a long time. Yeah, someone said the benefits of blogs. Honestly, I don't know if the blog to me is much more than well, let's see. Some would say they don't have so much to offer to the world. I don't know if that's true. I mean, we can just observe students and think about what students have done and how they respond to things. But I believe everybody has a voice. I know a lot of my students say too, I don't know how to do this, I can't write, but there's things out there if you just give it time to percolate. Someone mentioned, really, what's the value of a blog? I think the blog is just a place you have to park your stuff. Okay, you have to have a source of place to put it together. I call it a repository, and you want to drive people back to your repository. For example, when you do your blog post in LinkedIn, you get a pop-up right immediately. Do you want to put this out on Twitter? Well, it sure is easy to click that, but what are they doing? It's their job. They're driving all the traffic back to LinkedIn. They want your content to drive LinkedIn. I might suggest you want to own as much traffic as you can own. So you want to drive people back to your blog, or like I said earlier, now that blogs can be integrated directly in, I would like to drive people back to my website, much less than driving them off to LinkedIn, right? Okay. University programs, I would suggest, again, I would think about if you could even sit down, if you have a university, you want to tell your story. That's the first part. What is your story? And secondly, why is it interesting? Okay, why would anybody want to read it? Who is that audience and who would want to read it? And then maybe sit with the group, if it's a program, and outline what are the top 10 or 15 things that really matter that I can talk about, and then do short blog posts and move it out across social media. Okay, I think everybody has to think about what they're doing is, what's my story and why would anybody read it? And then, of course, remember to leverage back in other important people. If there's big players within some kind of function that you're working with at university, bring them into the story so that you can tweet them into the tweet, bring their name in, because that'll leverage more people in. Okay. Facebook, I just don't think it's a good platform because it doesn't have that much reach. Facebook, a Facebook post really goes to your friends. And what do I have, 700 or 800 friends? That's okay, but I don't really fully understand how anything I post goes out publicly on Facebook. Now, you never know. Sometimes I had a student just recently, he took a picture of a sign outside a unisex bathroom. I think it was down at Hickory or something, explaining why the unisex bathroom was really important for the culture and society that came within that restaurant. The thing went viral. He got interviewed by USA Today. Movie stars were reposting it. It was fabulous. And this just happened last week. But I think that maybe did come off of Facebook. So, there is a public there's a public setting for Facebook, but I always see my Facebook as my friend circle, and I don't think I have enough reach there. Okay? Facebook groups would be great. I'm not an expert at Facebook. Like I said, I've used it more or less in a friend context. But if there's other ways, others of you know ways to get out to other groups within Facebook. Matter of fact, I probably need to look into that, because if there is, I'm not using it effectively. Okay? So that does make sense. Thank you for that. Let me see what else I have here. University programs, we talked a little bit about that. Facebook, I probably need to learn more. Maybe I'm not using it properly. Okay? There sure is a lot to think about there about what I could do more with Facebook. I keep looking for platforms and think about it. The good thing about what I'm doing for my social media dashboard, again, it's fast. I can do it quick. Getting into a podcast or something or whatever is a big deal. Plus, the other thing that really bothers me is not everybody, that's not fair, that's generalizing. Many people rip off my motocross pictures, and I don't like it, and they don't give me credit, and I probably need to put big watermarks over all my images before I should send them out because people just steal them. And at some point, I keep thinking, why should I write quality social media content if I'm not getting something back out of it, right? Why we want to give everything away for free? And really, in a lot of ways, that's what LinkedIn is, right? It's millions of people producing content that drives, advertising, drives data, they resell data out of there. So we need to make sure if we're going to put into social media, it's driving value back to us or our organization. Okay. I am commercial and I am promotional. That's my background. But non-market driven, I would think about, is there a purpose in each student's life? I think that's what I'm doing now with my internet communication classes. I'm asking each student, and by the way, this is online distance education. I've got about 40 students in there. I'm asking them, what is your personal point of view? And that may not be promotional. That might be about one student has already said she has attention deficit disorder. She's going to write from that point of view. Another student, she wants to so much get into the rodeo and horse business. She's writing from that, telling her experiences with that, right? Other students are single moms, single dads. They're going to try to write about their internet perceptions based on that. So I think there's a lot of sharing going on from the perspective of the writer. And you might be able to, help other users within that group, single moms or people with attention deficit. You might be able to write toward them, okay? That's really a lot. By the way, I'm sure not about commercial with Master Competitor. I've made very little. My Mind Over Diet book makes a little bit of money, but most of that has been about helping people be fit and happy and successful in their exercise and diet habits as the years go by. So I would suggest a lot of that message is just sharing of ideas too. Okay. Let's see. Blogspot. Some of these other platforms, they're fine. I've told my students too. Weebly's another one. I think. I don't know how a lot of them work. What I did, I started with Blogger because I liked the templates and I like the ability it gives you to modify templates. Okay. Colors, sizes, images, typefaces. It just seemed to be a good platform. And honestly, I wanted to affiliate into Google because I think there's more. Again, look at those Google Plus sites. I just think there's more avenues to get out in front of a bunch of people. That was my goal of keeping with Google. Now, again, if I could start over, I'd go right back to Wix and use their blog tool and have one blog right inside my website and just start from there and then drive traffic back to that. Okay. I don't know, App State, we used to have personal web page. We used to have personal web space as professors. I don't know. Maybe Emory or someone else can tell us if there's a blog tool that we have within the university. I am not sure personally. So, let's see. Yeah. Yeah, thanks a lot. I think, let's see who said that. I think it was Tracy. Lots to think about. There is. It takes time. I'll tell you, if I had more time, I probably would invest more in social media. But again, these podcast folks, the ones that are doing it well, man, some of these guys like Dean Del Rey, again, here's another rock comedian guy I listened to. He grew out of nothing. He's a West Coast comedian. That guy, he must tweet 50 times a day. Okay. A lot of them are driving just Twitter is where they're at. Twitter's, but I tell you what, the good podcast folks, they're putting show notes in for every episode, pretty detailed show notes that are tied to a website or a blog. Okay. So all this stuff connects. No one's out there just doing it, it seems one without the other. Yeah. Yes, someone else said, App State blogger site being used for App State. I don't know what the overlap is, how official we should have to be, within the App State realm. That sure is a good point, Emery. I sure would want to believe that. Should it be 100% academic related to our research or our courses? Probably. Okay, so that's a great point. Based on if it's an external nonprofit to the university, maybe that would have to be it. And right now, here's another thing. Now we do have a new relationship with Google, right? We're using all kinds of Google tools, so I don't know why Blogger might not be incorporated in with the toolkit we've been now associated with. Okay. See, find your own path, man. Everybody's got a voice. We all have something to say, and I'm just saying, if you're going to say it, start at that blog content and move it out. Everybody's got something to say. I'm probably right now today, I'm probably doing a webcast to some new famous Kindle author. Okay, someone's writing a new book out there, so I think it's really great. And right here's high-priced consultants. I guess if I was better at this, that would have been 10 grand, right? But it's just simple thinking. I'm a simple. I like to put simple ideas together, because if you're going to build them for a student, they've got to be simple, and it has to be something that they can execute well. Okay, gets too complicated, you ask too much, you put too many steps into it, it's going to fail. Okay, but this is something I think, again, just what we did today in now 51 minutes. I think I can build this out for students that even if it's not for their personal use, they could go into a small business and do this. By the way, I know a student graduated from University of Florida. She's in a pretty big agency in Miami. This is what she does. She has a master calendar. She has 5 clients, some not so big, maybe local clients, but she has 5 clients, and she moves this type of content across the internet for 5 different clients. Okay? So, yeah, everybody can figure it out. I mean, if you can figure out how to build, if you haven't done anything at all, I'd start with, you can find plenty of places on the internet for like specific to Blogger or others. How do I build a blog? You can mess around with it, get that template started. Once you've got that little house built, you can start writing in there, and writing. And I tell someone said earlier, how do you do it? I wish I could do more. I mean, I have so many ideas. I walk around on campus. I'm a foot commuter, and I walk a lot, and I listen to podcasts, and I always think of ideas. What could I write about? And frankly, on any given day, I've got 10 things in my mind I could blog about, but I don't get to it all, right? But if I was doing it for a client, I would. Okay. Let's see. Anything else? If I missed anybody, because this is scrolling, if I missed anybody, just let me know, and I'll be glad to comment again if there's anything else out there. We're at 52 minutes. I'll probably take it up to about 55 if there's no other big questions or anything, because I don't know where y'all coming from. Probably some of you want to drive away at this point, so we'll see. And by the way, watch my most efficient weight loss technique video on YouTube. See how that goes, right? Trying to sort of tie in some things about that. Matter of fact, I just had a friend from the motocross world who's really a good racer in the early 80s contact me. He's obese now. He watched my video, and he wants me to reach out and help him lose weight. And I said, Jojo, spend a couple bucks and read my book, and from there I'll help you. So again, a lot of it isn't just commercial, but to be able to reach out and connect with somebody through my social media from many years ago that I consider a friend, that it can't be better. So yeah, so talking about great blogging manuals, tutorials. There's a lot out there. By the way, I haven't used it. We have lynda.com access here at App State. There probably is plenty in there about building out blogs too, so you can do that. But I just did a couple things for my students, and did a couple searches and found a couple good places to learn about building blogs, right? And one other thing I'd suggest is. Someone says they came in late here. What channel is your URL? I guess I showed about 8 or 9 of them now, but I've got YouTube's out there. I don't even know what the name of that one is. probably just search me under Tom Mueller on YouTube. Or tell you what, if you want just run most efficient running technique, you're sure going to pop up on my YouTube channel there. Profwriter.com is my personal website. You can connect through there too. Okay, but great to be able to help others and do some work too. And I don't know. I guess it's my hobby. It'll be a hobby plus, pilot running, test running for these classes, so we can help the students get involved too. So. Oh yeah, my YouTube, like I said, just type in most efficient running technique in a search, and you'll find that video, and that will take you to my main YouTube channel. Okay. One thing I'll tell you too, a weird thing is once you tie a YouTube channel to an email, at this date you can't undo it. That YouTube channel is tied to an old Yahoo email address that I wish I could get rid of, that I actually keep alive now because I've got so much traffic in that YouTube channel. So I've taken that old Yahoo email address and I forwarded it back into a Gmail address. It gets complicated. Like I said, if there's one takeaway on this, strategize first and keep it clean. That's something I've sort of messed up on over time. So good. Okay. Well, we're at 55 minutes here. Tell you what, I'm going to make one last overture here. If anybody has any other questions, let me know, or I'm probably going to sign out of this thing pretty soon. Okay. So someone just put a YouTube in here on one of my things. It's funny, YouTube, you just sort of get those letters and numbers. You don't really know what YouTube it's to, but there's a few things out there, that have some traffic, others don't. So it's fun to play with. So I guess what I was thinking is on this, there'll be the link available. I'll save this as a record session to Panopto, but there's also an export function. I think I'm probably going to put this on my, if it'll take, it's 56 minutes. That's going to be such a huge file. I don't know if it's going to fit on my YouTube channel. They don't do so well when you get something that big out there, So good. All right. Let's see. Well, I'm not seeing a whole lot else here. Let's see. There's a couple more. Just people saying thanks. Hey, I love it. I always like to share this. And Emery, I want to thank you because when you suggested this, I thought, how nice that you would let me do that. Because I do get excited about this type of work. I like it a lot. And if other people can do it, heck, we're all building something together. And I love success stories. Like I said, I couldn't be more rewarded than a few of my students really take off on this and either use it to get into a good career with this, because it's something people hire a lot of now, or if they would build their personal brand and become authors or whatever else. So good. Well, it says great session. If anybody else, Emery, you can tell me what else to talk about. I don't know what else I know besides this type of thing. Maybe I could talk about weight loss at App State or something. I don't know, but maybe some other time. All right, this has been great. By the way, also if you can, if you have an interest, to get back to me or Emery, just how you thought of this whole Panopto webinar type thing. Is that good or not? Did you like the way it worked? Because this was a whole pilot too, is using this webinar function that we have from Panopto. That's something else you might be interested in, just the way this was delivered. Maybe that's something you want to incorporate. I use it a ton because I do so much online with our advertising program that I just use it to talk to students a lot. So good. Okay, everybody says thanks. We're at 58 minutes or something, so I'm going to shut it down. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody, for coming. I really do appreciate it.